All right, everybody. Good morning. Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's November 20th SBCAG board meeting. For the record, my name is Bob Nelson, and I am the vice chair on the SBCAG board. Madam Clerk, please facilitate the roll call.
Director Silva. Here. Director Perotti.
Present.
Director Patino, absent. Director Mosby.
Here.
Director Lee.
Here.
Director Lavanino.
Here.
Director Julian.
Here.
Director Hartman.
Here.
Director Clark.
Here.
Director Capps, absent. Director Brown.
Here. Here.
Vice Chair Nelson.
Here.
And Chair Rouse.
No, here. I heard Brown. I thought it was Rouse. Thank you. I'm here twice.
Or not at all. And just for the record, Chair Rouse is participating remotely, so I'll be handling the chair responsibilities today from here from Santa Barbara. All right. Madam Clerk, prior to moving to the Pledge of Allegiance, I understand we have a remote request from Chair Rouse to participate remotely. Can you facilitate that process?
That is correct. Chair Rouse has made a request to participate remotely under the emergency circumstances exception to the Brown Act Government Code Section 54953, Subdivision F. Chair Rouse, as required, can you report if anyone 18 years of age or older is present in the room with you? And if yes, what is the general nature of your relationship with that individual?
The answer is no. I'm alone in my room.
Thank you. Vice Chair, with that disclosure, the board will need a motion and second to require the chair's remote participation.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
So, second.
Okay, so I have a motion from Brown, a second from Hartman. Due to the fact that we're in two locations, we're going to need to do a roll call vote here.
Director Silva? Aye. Director Perotti? Aye. Director Patino, absent. Director Mosby?
Aye.
Director Lee?
Aye.
Director Lavanino?
Aye.
Director Julian?
Aye.
Director Hartman? Aye. Director Clark? Aye. Director Capps, absent. Director Brown?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nelson?
Aye.
And Chair Rouse.
Aye.
I assume the motion carries.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, we could all stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is the public comment period for items not on today's agenda. Speakers, I guess I should ask Clerk. Clerk, do we have any, I understand it's now public comment. Do we have any public comment speakers?
Yes, there is one person in the audience who wishes to speak. And if there are any members of the public on the Zoom webinar who wish to speak, would you please use the raise hand feature and I will call upon you. And our first speaker is Patricia Keelan from Communify.
Okay, and as Ms. Keelan's walking up here, public comment period for items not on today's agenda. Speakers have up to 3 minutes each with a total of 15 minutes allotted for public comment. All right. Thank you, Ms. Keelan.
Good morning, Chair Nelson and members of the board. My name is Pat Keelan. I'm CEO for Communify, and I'm here today to speak on behalf of our Head Start program and the significant challenges that we are experiencing due to the federal shutdown. As you all are aware, the federal shutdown ended last week. However, the impacts of the federal shutdown continue, particularly on our Head Start program and Head Start programs around the country. Specifically, what has happened is that the Office of Head Start has come back to work, but we know that they had already been impacted by significant staff reductions back in the spring. They lost half of the staff on a national level. That included the San Francisco regional office, which helped to support our program and other Head Start programs around the state of California. Today, I really wanted to talk about the specific impacts that we're seeing on our Head Start program. as we face the possibility of a program closure on January 1. What has happened is that we submitted our regular 5-year grant back in September on time. But due to the closure, the federal shutdown, the Office of Head Start has not yet reviewed that grant. What that means for us is that as of now, we do not anticipate that we will have a new contract in place as of January 1. And for that reason, we, consistent with the California and Federal WARN Act, have had to notice 97 of our talented teachers, teaching assistants, managers, cooks, and family support workers that they will be released on January 2nd unless additional funding is secured. I want to emphasize the fact that our Head Start program is not just daycare or a preschool program. This is a whole child, whole family approach that works with our most vulnerable children and families throughout Santa Barbara County. We have 19 centers from Carpinteria to Guadalupe and Cuyama. This will have a significant impact on children and families throughout the county. Right now, we're projecting that 267 children and families will not be served as of January 2nd if we are forced to close our program due to lack of funding. So we are currently doing everything possible to try and secure other funding. We are working with the Santa Barbara Foundation and generous members of the Foundation Roundtable to educate them about the challenges that we're experiencing right now. We are in need of approximately $1.1 million in January alone to continue operations of the Head Start program and continue to serve these 267 families. So obviously, we're very concerned for our children and families, but we're also very concerned for our staff. It has taken us years to build the capacity that we have within Santa Barbara to recruit and retain very talented teachers who receive specialized training on a regular basis to ensure that they are on top of their game and providing quality services in the classroom. And that includes a STEAM curriculum: science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. And to lose these valuable, talented staff members would put us years behind if in fact we were forced to close the program in January. So again, we're working with all members of the community, Congressman Carvajal's office, President Pro Tem Monique Limon, Assemblymember Hart, and other philanthropic organizations to ensure that we have the funding in place as of January 1. But it was very important that all of you understand that the potential impact that this could have in your own communities in January.
Thank you, Pat. I actually got a heads up that Pat would be here today. This is something that touches all of our districts and our cities, and I know this is not something that typically SBCAG covers, but also it is something that matters for all of us, and so this is the one time that we are all convening together. So I appreciate you, Pat, highlighting that for all of us. It's definitely a huge concern, I think, in all of our communities, and something that I think the message is heard, at least with this supervisor and this board member, and I'm sure some others. And what are we, commissioners?
Directors,
Thank you.
yeah.
Director Lee, do you have a comment or a question?
I do. Just a question. May I ask a question to Pat?
Absolutely.
So how can SBCAG and how can this group help you and Head Start?
Well, clearly, we need funding right now to continue services into January. And so, again, we're working with all members of the community. We're open to working with any of you to explore options. Right now, we're exploring options with the Foundation Roundtable around zero interest, potentially a forgivable loan. And we'd be willing to work with any of the municipalities to try and create some bridge funding that's based in a prorated per child rate. depending on the number of children that we are serving in your local community. So we desperately need funding right now to ensure that we can continue services in all of your communities.
Thank you, Pat. And I just want to say that I would be supportive of SBCAG looking at this for funding and anything that we can do to support your program, because it's vital not just to the county but all of our communities as well. So I'm supportive if anybody else is.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Lee.
Thank you, Director Lee. Thank you, Pat, for being here. Really do appreciate you highlighting this huge concern in our community, and I'm sure we're all going to go back to our individual jurisdictions and see what we can do to help you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time today. Thanks.
Ms. Campos, do we have any other public commenters?
There are no additional public comments.
Okay, thank you. I would like to thank my colleagues and staff for giving us some liberty there on there. I think it's a really important thing for us all to hear and know about. So, all right. Are there any announcements for the consent calendar? Now we're moving on to the consent calendar.
Yes, there is an update to item 4B, Senate Bill 1 Baseline Agreement, page 2, sections 4.5, 4.6, 4.8, 4.9, and 5.4 were updated to include the project applicant names, implementing agency and program names, and the update is now reflected online for those items.
All right, thank you. Now, any of my colleagues, any directors have any items that they would like to pull from the consent calendar? In Santa Maria, do you guys have any items that you'd like to pull? Okay.
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Seeing none, can I get a motion for, oh, sorry, Mr. Brown. Director Brown, please.
Move to approve the consent.
All right, so we've got a motion from Director Brown
Second.
and a second from Director Silva. Again, being remote, can we do a roll call, please?
Director Silva?
Aye.
Director Perotti?
Aye.
Director Patino absent. Director Mosby?
Aye.
Director Lee?
Aye.
Director Lavanino?
Aye.
Director Julian?
Aye.
Director Hartman?
Aye.
Director Clark? Director Capps absent. Director Brown?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nelson?
Aye.
And Chair Rouse?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, excellent. We're moving along quickly. Thank you, everybody. Now, our next item is first discussion item. This is item 5A. Madam Clerk, will you please read that item into the record?
5A, 2028 Summer Olympics and Paralympic Games, recommended action. Receive and file a presentation from Kome Ajise, Executive Director of the Southern California Association of Governments, on the efforts to support the 2028 Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games.
All right, I believe we have Director Kern is
Yes,
going to kick us off.
Yes. Members of the board and Mr. Chairperson, I want to introduce Kome Ajise. He's the Executive Director of the Southern California Association of Governments. It's the nation's largest metropolitan planning organization. SBCAG represents the most diverse region in the world, which includes 6 counties, 191 cities, and more than 18 million residents. And the SBCAG board of directors has 86 members. Mr. Ajise has over 3 decades of experience in regional planning and transportation. He previously served as Chief Deputy Director of the California Department of Transportation. He was also the Caltrans District 10 Director when I was in Merced County, working at Merced County Association of Governments. So our career paths have crossed many times over the last few years, just a few. And Mr. Ajise is here today to share SCAG's work on transportation demand management plans for the upcoming Olympic Games. So with that, please welcome Mr. Ajise. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Director Kern. Good morning, Vice Chair Nelson and members of the board. My name is Kome Ajise. It's really a privilege to be here with you. I appreciate the invitation. We had our joint MPO meeting a couple of months ago. It's been a few months now. And we had a conversation at that time that we might be here. So I was looking forward to being back here in this beautiful territory. Santa Barbara is a beautiful place to be in. When I was at Caltrans, the detail in District 5 was one that we all pined after. So Scott's the lucky guy that has it. So it's really good to be here. And I have to say, it's a privilege and a pleasure to have had Margie as as a colleague over the years, and it was nice to catch up this morning and kind of revisit all the good things that we had worked on, and here we are. We started working at age 5, and we're still here, hoping to carry on the work. This is one of the things that the Olympics is one of the things that keeps me up at night. And so if I look like I need sleep, it's one of the reasons I need sleep. This is just a quick slide about SCAG. I think Margie already covered this. SCAG is one of the 18 MPOs in the state, and we happen to be the largest in the state, but also we have the same issues as you have. I think when we got together and talked, the issues are so similar in terms of what we have to deal with. We just have more of it, maybe. The aspect of it that I think is important as we look at the Olympics is our work is really to enable our cities, the 191 cities and the 6 counties, all of those jurisdictions, enable them to be actively engaged, even though most of them obviously are non-venue cities, and be able to engage them in the Olympics. I think you'll see in the presentation, this is really one of the things that we are about. Now, getting to the games. Oftentimes it's said that, we've done this before. We did the '84 Olympics, and it was great. And so, easy peasy, it's going to be okay for 28. Well, they're different. They're totally different animals, as you would see on this chart. The games hosted in '84 really is different than the games we're looking forward to in 28. Besides that, it's not just the Summer Olympics, we also have the Paralympic Games, and that has to be said. It's really important to note that. The Olympic Games will go from July 14th to July 30th, and then the Paralympic Games will follow from August 15th to August 27th. And this is the first time Los Angeles has hosted both of those at the same time. It's a much larger and more complex event than what we had before. We have 4 times as many events as we had in '84. In fact, our population had grown by 1/3 since the last time. And so when we talk about TDM, when we talk about travel demand management, it begins to make a lot of sense that we need to figure out how to engage our communities across the SCAG region in carrying on their lives while we have 15 million more people in our communities trying to get to the games. And so that really is part of the complexity of the games. If you look on the chart, we're expecting in '84 there were about 6 million spectators. We see almost 20 million, approximately between 15 and 20 million spectators coming to the LA 28 games. We expect that there will be 3 times as many athletes, or at least more than twice as many athletes, and they will all be housed in one area. For us at SCAG, our role is really guided by the work we do on what we call the GME, the Games Mobility Executives. These are the members of the Games Mobility Executives, includes Caltrans, LA Metro, LA DOT, the Mayor's Office, Metrolink, and the City of LA itself, as well as SCAG. The Games Mobility Executives support projects and initiatives that advance not just the issues around the games, but the larger issues of economic opportunity, sustainability, accessibility, and legacy. I think one of the things that we have going in, especially on the public side, is what do we get at the end of the games? What's the legacy that's left behind at the end of the games? And that's really part of the essence of the work that we do. Our work at SCAG is guided by what we call the framework. The program development framework was taken to our regional council. Our regional council basically blessed it, and that then becomes the guide for the work that we do at staff level around the games. And I will go through some of the elements of the framework so you have a sense of the work that we're doing, especially around the TDM work. And this framework really is about setting guiding principles and setting objectives that allows us to manage our role in the process. And the framework is predicated on our regional transportation plan. All MPOs are required to do an RTP-SES. In our RTP-SES, we have 4 pillars, and those 4 pillars are mobility, community, environment, and economy. Those 4 pillars have carried on from each successive plan, and we've sort of built policies and strategies around those 4 pillars. So it made sense going into the games that we would structure this framework of the work that we do around the games on the 4 pillars. And so the framework goes thus. So we set a goal for it. It's about making sure that we showcase Southern California and allow our communities to thrive through the games and also have a legacy that comes out of that process that enhances and allows us to be able to fulfill our role as the MPO in catalyzing improvements across the region. There are 4 objectives that are set, and I'll go through each one of the objectives in a minute. But it's one, to optimize the investment in legacy, and that is a major theme for us, this idea of legacy. The games are going to come through. Everybody's going to be really happy. The athletes are going to be great. The broadcasters are going to do a great job showing the rest of the world what fantastic event it is. This is the largest peacetime gathering of humanity in any one place at one time in the history of humanity. And so it's an event to be mindful of. However, it's going to come and go. What does it leave in its wake? That is the essence of the work that we're doing. So while a lot of folks are focused on the work they need to do to get the games done, we're doing part of that, but we also have an eye to the legacy. We want to also use it as part of that legacy building to accelerate some of the opportunities to innovate and things that we feel like we need to get done. How do we innovate those? How do we accelerate those? Because the game becomes the opportunity for, I think we're talking earlier on, I was talking with Vice Chair Nelson, the crisis that it creates is an opportunity to get some things done that maybe normal process doesn't allow you to get done. It also allows us to align policies and programs so that we can be consistent in what we say we are doing and how we are as a place. Opportunity for placemaking and for communities to become associated with the games, even though they may not necessarily be venue cities. In fact, most are not venue cities. And so going down each one of those objectives at a time. The first objective of trying to invest in legacy activities. We've taken great pains to focus the funding that's come through us at SCAG, whether it's the STBG-CMAQ funding, the carbon reduction program funding, some federal grant program like the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, as well as the REAP monies that we got through HCD. All of those funding programs that have come through us, we focus those on trying to address issues around the games. We've also awarded approximately $80 million in projects that support things like fleet electrification. These are things that we've always wanted. We want to green our fleet. And so here's an opportunity to do that. Connections to transit, safety improvements, technology solutions that make our transportation networks work more efficiently. One example of that is a bus infrastructure project, a charging infrastructure project that Metro has, which is a $24 million project that was going to become part of that legacy of electrification and charging. By all means, if there are any questions as I go through, please don't hesitate to stop and let me know.
Thank you.
We also are additionally supporting local agencies and jurisdictions with additional technical assistance during various grants to make sure that they're directed at this work. And lastly, we've been very involved in advocacy. I think I have been in Washington, D.C. with our policy makers more than any other time in the history of my career in this business, more this year than that, and I think it's because of the Olympics that we've been trolling for dollars in D.C. During the reconciliation process, the big reconciliation process, there was $1 billion that was put in that reconciliation for security for the Olympics. Not all of what we wanted. We wanted some more money for infrastructure, but we at least got the security vote. And by the way, that's really a big essence of this, a big element of the games is security. It's a national security event, so we have the Secret Service very much involved, and that conditions the areas around the venues and why the games are not accessible, will not be accessible by automobiles and only through transit and last mile pedestrian and bicycle activities. The second objective, which is to accelerate innovation through pilots. We had things that we've wanted to do, and it just takes a long time, as you all know, to get some things done. These games have provided us a focal point in terms of being able to draw attention and opportunity to develop and demonstrate concepts that we've had in our regional plans that just hadn't moved. One example of that is if you remember, and maybe you don't, but one example is in the '84 games, we created this thing called the Advanced Transportation System and Coordination Center. That center is still with us today. It's become a traffic management center that stayed with us today. It came out of the '84 process, and that continues to be the way traffic is managed around the LA basin. And so that's an example of legacy that came out of those games. In the same way, we're building pilots here. We're on the San Bernardino line of the Metrolink. We're piloting the open loop payment system. That's something I think you're familiar with in this county because you're ahead of the curve in innovation already. We're already doing some of that in Ventura County. But the Metrolink system became a good platform for us to try this out. The San Bernardino line is the longest of their lines, and so being able to pilot the open loop system on that line, on the San Bernardino and the Aero lines, is one that allows us to bring seamless and modern, consistent rider experience to a commuter rail system. We're also doing some quick builds. This is where you're able to get out and do some improvements on streetscape. We're piloting some quick build projects using very cost-effective material to improve safety, especially pedestrian and bicycle safety. We are working on some mobility hubs, and these are really opportunities where you have centers that allow you to have multiple modes come together and have that interchange of mobility with some seamlessness. So that's one of the things. These are one of the objectives of our framework. The third objective of the framework is to foster alignment of policies. We've identified some strategies to manage both demand for our folks in the region, as well as demand for freight in the region. As you know, we have the largest port complex in Southern California, between the two ports in the San Pedro Bay area and Port Hueneme. Those three ports are easily the largest complex of port systems in the Americas. And we have 40% of containerized goods coming through the San Pedro ports into the U.S. The 40% of the goods coming into the U.S. come through those ports. So I think we estimated in past studies when I was at Caltrans that every congressional district is touched by imports and exports that go through San Pedro ports. So they're very essential to the supply chain system. While the games are going on, we want to make sure that we continue the business of commerce. And so we'll be working on freight TDM as well as passenger TDM. And I'll talk about that in a minute. The last objective of the games is really to showcase our communities. Most of our communities are not particularly tied in directly into the games, but there's an opportunity to have community hubs with the opportunities to pedestrianize some of the streets. We're working with the City of LA through the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program to pedestrianize some major streets, Hollywood Boulevard, Wilshire Boulevard, Figueroa Street are some that come to mind. Those feature very hugely because they have the pedestrian load already as tourist attractions. Figueroa is going to be a main center of attraction because of the venues that are on Figueroa. Folks tend to want to go to Hollywood, and Hollywood Boulevard is going to be an attraction, so there's an opportunity there to use the games to showcase that. But beyond those, each one of our various communities are also engaged. We had a session at our board last month where we had two cities present their case along with LA 28 on how those two cities, city of Culver City and city of Mission Viejo, both cities have already engaged countries that have picked their cities to be host cities for their countries. So Netherlands will be hosted by Mission Viejo. New Zealand will be hosted by Culver City. So you have international houses in both of those cities. There's opportunities across the region for those international houses. And so that's one of the things, those kinds of things are ways that we are looking to showcase some of our communities. There will also be opportunities to create viewing and community hubs, as you see in the picture up there, shown in the picture up there. So those are the objectives of our role in the framework that our board approved for us to go forward with. But the two primary tasks that we have right now that I will end on are the TDM work that we're doing. We've convened, in fact, yesterday we had a fourth convening of the passenger TDM conversation. It's a regional forum where we're bringing all stakeholders together. We have a consultant that's leading the conversation as part of our role in the GME, the Games Management Executive. SCAG is leading this particular work, working with the rest of the GME to determine how we manage passenger demand, travel demand during the games. We expect to come up with strategies that will promote efficient options. Obviously, avoidance and having folks work from home will be key to that, but that cannot be all of it. Part of what we are expecting to also do is using those hubs that we just talked about, I just talked about, using those hubs to redirect folks away from venues so we don't have crowds at venues that are not necessarily be able to go into those venues. Having that distributed viewership of the games across the region is one of those TDM strategies. But there are a lot more strategies that we expect to come out of the process. And we're going to begin to test some of these strategies next year with the World Cup and the following year with the Super Bowl. And hopefully we'll have honed these strategies by the time the games come around. The second major effort is the freight TDM. This is of particular importance, like I said. We are the epicenter of the supply chain system in Southern California, with the largest warehouse complex in the Inland Empire, the largest port complex in San Pedro Bay, and the network in between the two Class 1 railroads and the many highway systems that are all around it. One thing to note as part of the GME is there will be a Games Route Network, which Caltrans is responsible for. The Games Route Network is going to be a segment of the highway system and city street system that will not be available for the rest of us to ride on because they will be dedicated to moving athletes, officials, and dignitaries. That Games Route Network then will be a constraint on the larger mobility that we have. So we need to then begin to think about, well, how do we move goods and people when you have part of the system constrained? We already have issues right now moving people anywhere and goods. How do we do that during the games? And so that becomes a very conscious problem we have to face up to in changing delivery times and making sure that merchants that may be caught in the cordoned areas for security still have access to supplies so they can carry on their business. So that again is part of the work we're doing. Talked about the quick builds already. These are examples of quick builds that we are already working on. We expect to start construction on many of them towards the end of next year, but most of the 12 quick builds that we're working on will be built in 2027 across the region, and they're They're across various cities in the region, just to, again, enhance safety for the most part in preparation for the pedestrian and bicycle load that we expect on the systems. And then lastly, we have the community hubs. We learned a lot from Paris on this. Several of our folks went to, I didn't get to go, they didn't let me go. But point. We learned from Paris that one of the things they did really well was have these community hubs across the region where people felt really part of the games. And we feel like we can do that, especially given the size of our region, that we can do that as well. And so we're working with local jurisdictions to identify what they need. We're creating toolkits so that cities don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're creating toolkits that will be available to our cities, and so they can basically set up community hubs and activation sites as best as they can. And then finally, what does success look like? As we plan from here, I tell you that I'm having sleep problems. This is the focus, is what does success look like? I have every assurance that the athletes are going to be fantastic. There's no question about that. I have every assurance that the rest of the world are going to see some great games on TV. What I am really concerned about, and what most of us on the GME are concerned about, is are we able to move people? Are we able to sustain the activities in our region to the level that it needs to be at while the games are going on? Or do we end up with the situation where things are just jammed up? So effective support of local projects to carry out the program objectives, I think, is one of them. We need to make sure that happens. Making sure that we meet the demand for movement and mobility during the games is another one. But lastly, laying that important foundation for the future. So this really depends on strong partnerships with our board, with our local jurisdictions, and members of the GME, and we're constantly having these conversations. And hopefully, we will continue to have liaison conversations with our surrounding MPOs who are talking to folks in San Diego, much like we had the conversation a couple of months ago with SBCAG. And that really is my presentation. I'll be glad to take any questions.
I'm gonna jump in with a quick question, but then I'll turn it over to some of my colleagues here. What kind of impacts we might be seeing up here in Santa Barbara County that you might be able to anticipate? And then also the second question is, where are the other opportunities that we have to either help or participate?
I think both of those are great questions. There will be impacts. I don't necessarily think they're necessarily negative impacts, just because there will be so many people coming to the games. And oftentimes when we think about people coming to the games, we think of folks coming from abroad. Yeah. But the games are in the US. It's a large country, 340 million people. There will be a lot of folks in the US that will finally have a chance to come to the games that may have not been able to go to Paris, for example. So that's one consideration. They're not all going to sit in LA. They're all going to be looking for beautiful places to be at. And I think that's going to be both an impact and an opportunity for folks here in Santa Barbara to think about. I think there's an opportunity for activation centers here where you might have community hubs and folks can, I think, just having a festival village is one way to think about it during the games, that people know if they want to go see the games and be part of, you can stay home and watch the games. But we're such social beings, we want to be with other people, is why we go to stadiums, right? And so people want to go out and watch the games with somebody on the big screen, especially if your team is playing. So having those activation centers, having food and music and all the things around it, I think it's an environment that's an opportunity for a lot of communities outside of the venue cities. And that's what we're doing around the SCAG region.
All right, I think I have Director Hartman. Do you have a question?
Sure. A couple of questions. First, where did you get the 20 million, given that it was only about 8 million in Paris? How was that derived?
Well, the 20 million, it's approximately, we're thinking anywhere between 15 and 20 million. that are spectators. We have a large population, bigger population block in our region than Paris had. And we also have the entire nation, the U.S., that will be actively looking to come to an Olympic Games. I think that's an opportunity. Not everybody was able to travel to Paris from all over the world. We have an advantage in terms of population here, where you have 340 million people available to come to, maybe not all the kids, but you have that population block. So in our modeling, looking at the population density of the U.S., I think it sort of gives you a little more of an attraction to these games. We're going to have sports like baseball that was not in other games. That's going to be a different draw than most people have. So there's all kinds of different things that were factored into the estimation of between 15 and 20 million.
And my second question has to do with community hubs. You said that that was something you really learned in Paris to bring here. And who does it? Can you elaborate? I mean, if we want one in Santa Barbara, if we want to participate, is it nonprofits? Is SCAG doing it? How is that being organized?
Well, it's
and
really,
what are the key features of one?
It's a partnership. It's a public-private partnership. I mean, there will be the potential for sponsorship. There might be businesses that want to sponsor a hub. It really is the agency of any jurisdiction, a city. I think a lot of our cities are looking for how they can turn some of their public spaces into an activation site. We just as an aside and really connected to your question, we had a conversation with the Bloomberg Associates team yesterday on this particular issue. And for those who don't know, Bloomberg Associates it's really a consulting firm set up by Mayor Bloomberg, and they're there to help cities and only cities have place-making opportunities. They don't charge; they do it for free, but they can only come in if the mayor wants them to come in. They've done all kinds of work along Broadway in New York City, for example, all for free. And when we toured it, when I visited with them, and the reason we're talking to them is we're trying to bring them in to help some of our cities create these places that will become legacy places for the rest of time. And so where a city might have an opportunity of a space that's really defunct and not functioning right now, and turn that into something, the games allows us to do that. So using that as a catalyst to create something that then is lasting and becomes a public space for the future, I think is the opportunity that I see in that potential.
That's tremendously exciting, and thank you so much for coming, and thank you, Margie, for bringing him. I'm excited about the games in a way I wasn't before.
Are there any other questions from directors here in Santa Barbara before I go to Santa Maria? Director Brown?
Not so much question, but we've also have made inquiries as a host city. I don't know, but Solvang is known as the Danish capital of America, and so we've made some outreach to our Denmark friends, and hope to host them as well.
Good.
So,
good.
And that actually dovetails into a question I had. I know that there's hosting opportunities for communities in advance of the Olympics, as some of the teams and countries need to do some training and acclimating to the weather here.
Yes.
Is that through you guys, or is there other routes for some of our communities to plug in?
I think through, you probably want to go through LA 28.
Okay.
They've set up shop to help connect folks to international IOCs, national IOCs. One of the things that happened in the LA area and in the SCAG region is the consulate corps. We have a lot of consulate offices and consular offices in the area, and having them tour your city, and the city of Long Beach brought like 40 of those consulate offices to Long Beach to showcase, opportunities. And I know the city of LA is trying to do the same they did similarly in that respect, and other cities are trying to do the same. So there is an opportunity to talk directly with LA 28, but also maybe invite specific consular offices to come visit and see what the opportunities might be between that country's IOC, because that's who's going to make the decision as to where their national house is going to be.
Okay.
And where their training is going to be.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from our directors up in Santa Maria?
No, we're good. Thank you.
Right. And Chair Rouse, do you have any questions? Are you good?
No questions here.
All right. Thank you. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to preview a little something. I'm going to hopefully have the opportunity of my colleagues elect me the chair of the Board of Supervisors next year, and you guys as the chair of SBCAG. And I plan on kicking off early next year the Santa Barbara County Olympic Committee, where we start to look at some of these endeavors countywide. We've already started talking with the First District about putting some of these things together. So I think we'll be able to use this format as a way to have some of these conversations and try to help each other, whether we're helping Solvang or Goleta or Guadalupe attract some of these communities out there, and then also to take this opportunity to really build community, to celebrate sports and athletics and our country, as well as us coming together peacefully throughout the world to celebrate the Olympics. So thank you for being here. Ms. Kern, do we have any additional information you want to share?
No, I just want to thank Mr. Ajise for coming and sharing this information. So I think that the three takeaways I took, and I just want to reiterate them, is there's not going to be any parking at the venues. So alternative transportation is going to be a must. So this is an opportunity to get people out of their cars and onto the train, onto the bus, and using their bicycles to get to the events. And then the road network for the game participants only. So that's going to be an interesting experience for all of us to see that in action when we have a major event like this. Maybe even if it's an evacuation or whatever. I mean, see how they manage that. And then the need for buses and bus drivers. I think that's going to be a huge thing moving forward. And you didn't really address that,
I didn't talk about that.
So that's something that I gleaned from the presentation that I just wanted to share with the board and highlight. So again, thank you. But if you want to address that,
Yeah, just on that note, as part of planning for the games, we're expecting to bring in about 2,700 buses, in addition to the fleet that we have. I think LA Metro runs about a 3,000 bus fleet. So additional 2,700 buses will be needed to run.
And drivers.
Transit, and drivers, and mechanics. And
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a really big complex.
Actually, that brings up another question I had. I was recently down in LA for a World Series game, 18-inning game at that. Pretty fun. But I got to see a lot of those Waymos that are going around. So are you guys leaning into the automation at all, or the autonomous
They're part
transportation?
of the conversation. Some of those companies are actually sponsors, and they're working with LA 28, and how they feature will depend on the arrangement they have with LA 28.
Okay.
I know they already have an official vehicle sponsor, which they've picked one. I can't name names while I'm talking about this away from them. They are the ones that need to talk about that. But they're working on mobility opportunities. LA 28 is responsible for moving the athletes and the officials and all of those people. The work that we're doing in the GME is to move everybody else and make sure that we're all doing. We're getting to the games, and we're also getting to our businesses and opportunities around the region.
Again, very exciting. Director Hartman.
Is there a CalVans opportunity?
We can have the state let us buy some more vans. So we'll talk to the governor. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Ajise. All right. So that is just a
Public
presentation.
comment on this item.
Oh, sorry. Is there public comment?
If there are any members of the public on Zoom, would you please use the raise hand feature and I will call upon you. There are no paper request to speak forms, and there are no attendees on the line who wish to speak.
All All right, thank you, Ms. Campos. So this was a presentation, so there's no board action necessary. So let's go ahead and move to item 5B.
Item 5B, Regional Early Action Planning Grants Program. Recommended actions: 1, approve and authorize the chair to terminate the agreement with the Housing Trust Fund of Santa Barbara County effective upon approval due to budget overruns, cost escalation, and technical and logistical barriers for its 3D printed affordable home. Regional Early Action Planning Grants of 2021, award of $372,414, which was effective January 31st, 2024. 2, approve, ratify, and authorize the executive director's issuance of a notice of intent to terminate agreement, which terminates the agreement effective November 20th, 2025, subject to the board's approval. 3, approve and authorize the executive director or designee to take actions necessary for the wind down of the agreement, subject to the board's ability to rescind this delegated authority at any time. 4, approve and authorize the chair to execute amendment number 1 to the agreement between SBCAG and the City of Santa Maria for its downtown revitalization infrastructure improvements REAP 2.0 award of $2,352,941, which was effective January 31st, 2024, to approve the scope of work changes. 5, approve and authorize the chair to execute amendment number 2 to the agreement between SBCAG and the City of Santa Maria for its downtown revitalization infrastructure improvements REAP 2.0 award of $2,352,941, which was effective January 31st, 2024, to increase the award amount by $245,567.17 for a total award amount of $2,728,339.17.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah, it was. Mr. Becker.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair and Directors, Mike Becker, staff. Today we're asking you to review and approve several items related to the Regional Early Action Planning Grants Program, or REAP 2.0. The REAP 2.0 program was created by the state in 2021, and it provided a flexible source of funds for implementing the sustainable community strategy of the aspect of the regional transportation plan. It was passed to the state's metropolitan planning organizations by formula. In our region, we had approximately $5 million available to suballocate throughout the region. SBCAG conducted a competitive application process, which resulted in a suite of projects that the board considered during its December 2022 meeting. And during that meeting, the board approved funding for 7 projects. Among those were for the City of Santa Barbara's Housing Authority, the Jacaranda Court development. The funds were for the architectural component of that project, and that project is complete. We provided funding for the City of Goleta's San Jose Creek Trail project. The portion of the project that was funded through REAP 2.0 is complete, though the city is still working on delivering the project. We awarded funds to the City of Lompoc to develop an accessory dwelling unit, or a permit-ready accessory dwelling unit program, and that project is in progress. We awarded funds to the University of California at Santa Barbara to develop an active transportation data dashboard. The university just released its draft product, so that project is moving along. We awarded funding to the Housing Authority of the County of Santa Barbara to support transportation infrastructure related to its Perkins Place development in New Kiama. The board terminated the agreement with the county's Housing Authority in August 2024 due to the Housing Authority determining that it would not be able to satisfy the grant program's deadlines. And then we awarded, the largest project was to the City of Santa Maria for its downtown revitalization infrastructure improvements project. The largest component of that project, which was expanded sewer capacity into the downtown area, is complete. And finally, we awarded funds to the Housing Trust Fund of Santa Barbara County to support the development of its affordable 3D printed home. And the Santa Maria project, as well as the Housing Trust Fund project, are the topics of today's discussion. On October 24th, SBCAG received an email, which was followed up by a letter from the Housing Trust Fund stating that the board had made the difficult decision to terminate its project. As Liana mentioned, budget overruns, cost escalation, and logistical barriers were cited as the reasons for terminating the project. I will note that John Peterson, the CEO of the Housing Trust Fund, as well as Luis Viega, the board president of the Housing Trust Fund, are here if there are any questions. And following the receipt of that email, SBCAG sent a termination letter to the Housing Trust Fund to begin the process of winding down the grant project. The first three actions that Liana read are formally terminate the agreement with the Housing Trust Fund. The Housing Trust Fund was awarded $372,414 to support the project. And to this point, it incurred expenses of $126,837.83 prior to determining that it could not move forward to deliver the project. And that leaves an unspent balance of $245,576.17. And SBCAG staff checked in with the Housing Community Development, which is the state agency that administers the program, and we determined that we are able to allocate the unspent funds to a separate REAP 2.0 awarded project. It is important to note that there are some deadlines that are approaching with this program. The program was extended last year by the budget trailer bill. The program officially ends at the end of 2026. However, final invoices for all projects are due by September 30th, 2026. And let me pivot to the City of Santa Maria now. The fourth and fifth actions on the agenda are related to the City of Santa Maria's project. The first one is somewhat unrelated to the Housing Trust Fund, but prior to the news from the Housing Trust Fund, the city reached out to SBCAG to request a scope of work change for its project. And as I mentioned, they've already completed the largest component, which was the sewer project. But the other part was to build a bus rapid transit station in downtown Santa Maria, and they are conditioning a developer to deliver that. So that left the excess funding that the City of Santa Maria had, which is approximately $580,000, and they requested the scope of work change, and we cleared it through Housing Community Development. So pending the board's approval, that will occur. But what they want to do is transition from the bus rapid transit station, which will be delivered by a developer, to downtown pedestrian network improvements, which are sidewalk, crosswalk improvements, and so forth. I did request that City of Santa Maria staff attend. They haven't swung the camera up north around, so I can't confirm that they're there. Oh, Fred's there. Brett's, okay. The City of Santa Maria staff is in North County. So that's the action number 4 on the agenda. And the fifth action, I'll talk about now. So staff presented an item to the Technical Transportation Advisory Committee to seek a recommendation from that committee on where to allocate the unspent funds. The TTAC voted unanimously to recommend that the unspent funds go to the City of Santa Maria to support its project. And one of the primary reasons for that is the city is able to scale its project easily to be able to use the funds and also to meet the program deadlines. There was a little bit of discussion also during the TTAC meeting about potentially allocating it to University of California Santa Barbara's project to provide them the ability to purchase additional bicycle counting equipment. However, the TTAC motion was unanimous for the City of Santa Maria. So there are 5 actions on today's agenda. The actions 1, 2, and 3 are related to terminating the agreement with the Housing Trust Fund. Action 4 approves the scope of work change for the City of Santa Maria. And action 5, if the board chooses, is to allocate the unspent funds to the City of Santa Maria for its project. And a couple points I wanted to make about the Santa Maria project. The City of Santa Maria is in the process of revitalizing its downtown, and that includes approximately 1,000 new housing units downtown. The city did successfully deliver on the largest component of its REAP project, and then finally, they are able to scale to accommodate any increase in funding. With that, I'm happy to take any questions, and we do have the Public Works Director of Santa Maria up north, and we have representatives of the Housing Trust Fund down here.
All right, let's go. Questions for Mr. Becker before we go to Santa Maria or the Housing Trust. Anybody up? Director Hartman? Okay. And Santa Maria, do you have any questions for Mr. Becker?
I do.
Okay, Director Mosby, please.
Yeah, so on item number 5, when you add those two numbers together, you're looking at 2.598 million, not 2.728 million. Is another $130,000 coming from somewhere else?
Let me look into that, Director Mosby. I can't do it right this second.
So you have 2.352 plus 2.45, which is 2.598. But you say you have a total order of 2.728, about $130,000 difference?
Okay, yeah, I'll look at that briefly while you're talking to the Housing Trust Fund.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Becker while he's looking, I guess he's looking that up for Mr. Mosby. I guess Director Hartman, you had a question for that Housing Trust?
Yeah, I was really excited. I think all of us were really excited about the project. And, you know, we have to reach further than we can actually achieve sometimes to learn. So I guess what are the lessons we take away from this?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks. Let me introduce myself real quickly. My name is John Peterson. I'm the newly elected CEO of the Housing Trust Fund. Many of you may have known me from my Habitat for Humanity days. I'm also the CEO of the Coastal Housing Partnership. That's a strategic partnership between the Housing Trust Fund and coastal housing. That's a conversation for another day. But yeah, this really was an exciting project and something that Jennifer McGovern, the past founder, executive, or CEO of the Housing Trust Fund was into. And we really hope that we could do that. The Housing Trust Fund primarily is a revolving loan fund, a CDFI. We lend on affordable housing projects. We also have a workforce development down payment assistance program. So this was a new idea for us, technical assistance, and an innovative project that we were really excited about spearheading, but really with the intent of helping affordable housing providers come up with new ideas and provide insights that may help projects in the future. And so, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to move forward with the development of this unit, but I think we did learn a lot from the process, and we will be sharing that, and I can share a few things about the specifics of why we had to close this project, but Jennifer has also agreed to stay on and develop a white paper so that we really can have for the records what happened, what things we learned that were good, what things we learned that were problematic, and how we can utilize this learning going forward, and all other affordable housing folks can do it. A few of the main reasons, number one, the cost overruns, but a lot of those costs increase were from standard construction pieces, and so all developers are feeling those impacts. We're seeing increased costs across the board. The other technical issue was twofold with our printing companies. Number one, they weren't quite prepared for California's seismic rules, and so we had to redevelop some of their printing methods. We reached out to Icon, which is the largest 3D printing company in the country. They are working on a project in SLO, but they're not quite ready to go either. But they had some methods that were a little closer to California's seismic rules. And then ultimately what happened with Apis Core, the group that was going to print it, is we're a smaller startup. Their printer broke, and they found that they couldn't repair it, and they weren't going to have a new printer until 2027. And so we weren't going to be able to meet the timelines with that group. And so those were the technical things that really made it impossible for us to do this unit. But we will have a lot of other things that we've learned that we'll be sharing through that white paper.
Thank you. Any other questions for the Housing Trust Fund? Santa Maria, you guys are good down there as far as, okay, getting nods. And Director Rouse, or Chair Rouse? Okay, we're good there. All right, thank you. Mr. Becker, did you figure out where that missing $130,000 is?
I think it was actually Director Mosby who figured it out.
That's right.
So the extra, what ended up happening is in action number 5, it's described the the full value of the Housing Trust Fund project was added to the Santa Maria total. The number, if Leona could correct it, in action number 5 is $2,598,508.17, which that would be the total award.
All right, I've got a question about this as well. I'm sympathetic that this wasn't able to move forward, but there have been funds expended, and there was a grant that was applied for. And I'm just trying to understand how that, we're supposed to be stewards of these grant dollars, right? We're passed through, we're the ones that are responsible for it, and we're supposed to get deliverables for them. And when a grant applicant cannot meet those deliverables, is that a loan? Is that a forgivable? How's that work? And then also, what's the liability for SBCAG on potential clawbacks for not delivering the projects that, were adopted there? So, I'm sympathetic to the Housing Trust Fund, but at some point, I don't know if it's our bad when it comes to that extra $130,000.
Director or Vice Chair Nelson, a very good question. So for starters, I reviewed the agreement between SBCAG and the Housing Trust Fund, and nothing in the agreement states that there would be a requirement to repay. And I also, the scope of work of the Housing Trust Fund included more than the construction aspect of the project. It included a lot of pre-construction activities, which actually occurred. So the work that was done was consistent with the scope of work. So essentially, we're drawing a line after the pre-construction, before the construction, and saying the project stops here. But they did deliver according to their scope of work. They just didn't complete it. In discussions with the Department of Housing and Community Development, there was no mention of the requirement to pay back the already expended funds, and HCD was saying that we can allocate the unspent funds to another project.
Okay, I'm still concerned. I'd like to get something from HCD that says that they're, letting us off the hook on those funds at some point. I'm sure there was no repayment in the agreement, but I'm sure it was that the agreement was for completed projects. So I guess there's still breach there, and so I want to make sure that we close that up. I am somewhat concerned about that. I don't know. I'd actually also want an accounting of what those funds were spent for, so that we feel comfortable that those were valid expenditures to go along with that.
And if that's the direction that the board wants to go, I would suggest then that take the action item, the 1 through 4 separately, and then perhaps continue 5 to January.
Well, I think we can still allocate the funds to Santa Maria that are remainder at this point, but I think there's some accountability on the piece that's already been expended is what I'm looking for.
Okay, we can follow up with those actions. So what I'm hearing, investigating the breach of contract and see if there's any actions that needed there, and the accounting of the funds that were expended, and making sure we got the products associated with those funds.
Yeah, I just think we have a fiduciary responsibility here, and I think that's part of our job here. And I understand things go wrong, and I know they're a nonprofit, so they're not, hopefully nobody's pockets were padded, but but we still have the responsibility to daylight that and deal with it appropriately in the right venues, which is here. So, if somebody makes a motion, I'd ask them that they would consider including that direction to staff on this.
I had one more comment.
Oh yeah, of course, Director Brown, please.
Do we have completion bonds on these contracts of any kind?
We did not.
Should we? Maybe that's the question. So we don't step in it again.
No, but that's a good question. In previous contracts, consultant contracts that I've done in my career, I've done a 10% retention for that. So they would incur costs, and then we would retain 10% to be paid out at the conclusion of the project. That helps in ensuring that the project would be done. We have not done that here, so that's something we can look at moving forward, but we did not include any of those assurances in the contract for this situation.
All right, any other questions? Can I get a motion on the staff recommended actions? Oh, sorry, thank you, Director Brown. Is there any public comment on this item?
If there are any members of the public on the Zoom webinar who wish to speak, would you please use the raise hand feature and I will call upon you. There are no paper request to speak forms, and there are no attendees on the line who wish to speak.
All right, not seeing any public comment. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion. Director Silva.
Motion to approve items number 1 through 5 for Regional Early Action Planning Grants Program with the addition of Vice Chair Nelson's suggested items as referred to in the record.
All right. Thank you, Director Silva.
Second.
Okay, and a second from Director Brown. Any further discussion?
Vice Chair Nelson and Director Silva, if your motion can also include the correction to the accounting on item 5.
And with the accounting to item number 5.
Thank you.
All right, and the seconder? Yes, okay, concurs there, so we're good there. So I see no further discussion. Let's go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Director Silva?
Aye.
Director Peretti? Aye. Director Patino, absent. Director Mosby?
Aye.
Director Lee?
Aye.
Director Lavanino?
Aye.
Director Julian?
Aye.
Director Hartman? Aye. Director Clark? Aye. Director Capps, absent. Director Brown?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nelson?
Aye.
And Chair Rouse?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Housing Trust. Thank you, City of Santa Maria. Thank you, Mr. Becker. All right, moving on to item 5C.
Item 5C, appointments to the Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee and the Santa Barbara County Transit Advisory Committee. Recommended actions that the Board of Directors, 1, appoint 1 at-large member to the Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee to fill the remainder of a 4-year term ending September 2027, and 2, appoint 3 members to the SB County Transit Advisory Committee to fill 3-year terms beginning November 2025 and ending in 2028, or 3, provide direction to staff regarding an alternative appointment process for one or both advisory committees.
All right, I believe we have a staff presentation by Ms. Lauren Bianchi-Clemon and Michael Becker.
Yes, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vice Chair Nelson and directors. For the record, my name is Lauren Bianchi-Clemon, Government Affairs and Public Information Manager for SBCAG. I'll be joined today, as you mentioned, Vice Chair Nelson, by Mike Becker, who's our Director of Planning. I support the Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee, and Mike Becker supports the Santa Barbara County Transit Advisory Committee. Today, we are asking the board to make 4 advisory committee appointments or provide direction of an alternative process that works for your board. I will briefly review the recruitment process and talk about the Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee before turning it over to Mike to talk about the Santa Barbara County Transit Advisory Committee. We received 10 applications during a 3-week recruitment period in October, which is a strong response for standing advisory committees that require ongoing commitment to core government functions. While these committees are not as high profile as some volunteer opportunities, we appreciate the service of those who step forward, and they play an essential role in transparency, accountability, and the public process. I also want to thank your board. Your support in sharing the recruitment with your networks and communities was certainly helpful to this process. In addition to your outreach, SBCAG staff conducted targeted outreach efforts for positions requiring specific experience or representation. So going into what Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee is, the committee is seeking 1 at-large vacancy. So that seat opened in September when Abraham Carmona from Guadalupe stepped down after moving out of the area. So we are seeking someone to serve the remainder of that term through September 2027. The Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee and the ordinance itself establishes 11-member committee representing North County, South Coast, and the region at large. So there's 4 members from each subregion and 3 members that are at large. At-large appointments are made directly by the SBCAG board, while the North and the South County representatives are nominated through their respective subregional committees to the board. The committee oversees the expenditures of Measure A revenues to ensure voter-improved funds are used as intended. The ordinance asks that members represent a broad cross-section of transportation users and the county's geographic, social, cultural, and economic interests. Committee members serve without compensation and typically meet twice a year. So of the 10 applicants that 10 applications we received, 7 expressed interest in the at-large seat on this committee. Their full applications are in your agenda packet, and this slide provides a brief summary of each. Applicants who express interest to serve in both committees may be appointed to more than one at the board's discretion. So I'm going to pause here to see if you would like to discuss this appointment now for the Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee, or we can move on to learn a little bit more about the Transit Advisory Committee appointment opportunities and hold the discussion to the end of the presentation.
What's the direction of the board, or is there any preference on dealing with this first? I mean, some of these people have applied for multiple.
Correct.
And we're only going to appoint them for one of those? So if somebody gets the at-large, or they can do both?
Yeah, they can. There's no restrictions for that unless the applicant themselves said that they didn't want to serve on both committees. So we do have one representative who expressed that they only wanted the opportunity to serve on Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee. So
And he's here.
And he's here.
At this meeting.
Well, do you have public
Well, let's keep as many options available for us as we decide this, and then also we'll probably want to have some public comment before we make a decision. So let's go ahead and defer that until we go through all the different pieces.
All right, Chair and Directors. The Santa Barbara County Transit Advisory Committee, or SBCTAC for short, is the designated social services Transit Advisory Committee for the Santa Barbara County region. And having this committee is a requirement of the Transportation Development Act, or TDA. And among the committee's primary responsibilities is to guide and advise on the annual unmet transit needs process. The committee includes 18 members that are a mix of transit agency staff and volunteer members. The 3 vacancies that are being considered today are all volunteer members. Members serve 3-year terms as defined by the Transportation Development Act and can be reappointed once. In January 2023, the board approved a resolution which authorized $100 stipends per meeting for the volunteer members. And the purpose of the stipends were to assist in recruitment and retention and to recognize that the volunteer members are taking time out of their day to attend meetings in person. Meetings are scheduled for the first Wednesday of each month, and they're conducted only as if needed. And over the last few years, we've averaged about 6 meetings a year. In-person locations for the Santa Barbara County Transit Advisory Committee are available at SBCAG's office, as well as the City of Santa Maria's Public Works Conference Room. And with that, I could take questions on the committee, but we have the 3 positions. The first is an agricultural worker representative. There are 2 applicants. We have a transit user from Southern Santa Barbara County, where there are 3 applicants. And the last is a social service provider for seniors from the South Coast, and there are 2 applicants for that.
Okay, any questions from staff right now on this before we go to public comment on this? Okay, not seeing any questions in Santa Maria? Not seeing any. Do we have public comment on this item?
We do have one request to speak form from Christopher Lapp, and we also have an attendee on Zoom who wishes to speak, Thomas Hernandez from Calvans.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Lapp, if you can please come up to the microphone.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and Directors. Very exciting to be here. I tossed my hat in for the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I believe my resume is in the package. However, I'm here to answer any questions, also to introduce myself.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lapp, for being here. Any questions for Mr. Lapp?
Well, while we have you, why don't you explain your background and why you think this is a good match?
Thank you, Chairman.
Great question.
So, 25 years in housing, affordable housing. I have a background in property taxation and finance. Part of my paying it forward is I am now teaching at the University of California, Santa Barbara, AI and leadership in a field looking at the overall goals of the group. I feel that my all my qualifications really fit really beautiful, and I'm really excited to volunteer for this position.
All right, great answer. Thank you, Mr. Lapp.
Thank you.
All right. I think we have Mr. Hernandez online from, who is one of our applicants for the agricultural worker representative.
Thomas Hernandez from Calvans. If you can please unmute yourself. You are unmuted.
I don't have controls over my computer. Thank you so much, Chair Nelson, Vice Chair Nelson. I appreciate you calling upon me. My name is Tomas Hernandez. One small change, it says my residency is Visalia, but that's our organizational residency of Calvans. I'm here on the Central Coast, live in Ventura County. Just really happy to have this opportunity to represent farm workers. Particularly is my expertise. Calvans has been serving the region for the last 10 years in Santa Barbara and Ventura County. We've increased transportation for farm workers specifically in Santa Barbara County from 1 van to peaking out at probably about 123, 24 vans within the last 10 years. I've been here for all of those changes. I've seen the county grow, particularly well-versed with the growers, the FLCs, as well as the drivers in the field, as well as the workers. So I'd be happy to bring all those skill sets to the table and assist in future transportation plans for any farm workers in Ventura County. Thank you so much.
Ventura and Santa Barbara County, right?
I'm sorry,
Thomas?
Santa Barbara
Yeah.
County. Apologize about that.
Little Freudian slip there. No, that's great. Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Hernandez from any of the board members? And as a point of clarification here, does somebody need to reside in Santa Barbara County to be eligible for this? I'm getting.
Not for SBCAG, no, or Measure A, actually, so.
Okay. I was just concerned, you mentioned that somebody that was formerly a Guadalupe member left the
Yeah.
area and so therefore was no longer.
Yeah, it wasn't because of a lack of eligibility, just that they felt that they can no longer contribute the way that they felt needed to have that contribution on Measure A, and they wanted to give the opportunity to someone else.
All right. So I know when we have these applications like this, sometimes we will have a subcommittee go through that. Is that what are you recommending for us here? I know sometimes we get a subcommittee that vets these, maybe does some additional interviews, and then makes some recommendations to the board. It's kind of hard to sit up here and have a beauty contest.
Yeah.
Although we can if we need to. What's the recommendation from staff on how to move forward on this?
Yeah, your board for the Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee has employed a couple different options, both in the subregionals and at the SBCAG board. For the at-large position with this body, you can convene like an ad hoc subcommittee of certain members, and we can organize interviews for you if you would like to do that. That's an option. You've done it before in the past as well. It does require time for those who are willing to give that time to serve for those interview process. For SBCAG, they've mostly been direct appointments on your consent agenda. And so just because of the nature of how many people had applied to those positions and who were interested. So now considering that you do have more than one option, you could also combine that and have interview processes, or if there's people that are stand out to you right now before your board, we're happy to make those appointments, and you can separate it. You could be, we want to do a subcommittee for Measure A, and we want to appoint to SBCAG today.
What's the will of the board?
Well, I see Mr. Lapp, and being here does make a difference, so I will nominate him just for being here and for his background.
Right. Well, there's that. There's a nomination, or I guess that would be eventually a motion then on that one, or and that's one way we can do it here right now. But I just want to hear from some other, and I'd be happy to take that motion. But let's see what other board members are interested in doing.
I think the staff has been very accommodating, giving us all their backgrounds and everything else that is in the packet.
Right.
And I think we could go forward with what we have today.
Okay.
So.
All right. So any other thoughts on that before I go ahead and take the, I know Supervisor Lee jumped out with a quickly with the motion, which is great, and I do appreciate Mr. Lapp, reviewing your application. You do seem well qualified for this, but I'm interested to hear from some of my other colleagues. Director Hartman, did you want to make any further comment or question?
No, I'm prepared to second the motion when the time comes.
All right. So we have right now one director who wants to make a motion. So make a motion on the Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee at-large member.
Got it. So I nominate Christopher Lapp as to the Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion or up in Santa Maria? Don't want to leave you guys out of this conversation. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody jump up in Santa Maria or Chair Rouse. So let's go ahead all right, so not seeing any, let's go ahead and take a roll call vote on that piece.
Director Silva?
Aye.
Director Perotti?
Aye.
Director Patino absent. Director Mosby?
Aye.
Director Lee?
Aye.
Director Lavanino?
Aye.
Director Julian?
Aye.
Director Hartman?
Aye.
Director Clark? Director Capps absent. Director Brown?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nelson?
Aye.
And Chair Rouse?
Aye.
And motion passes.
All right, congratulations, Mr. Lapp. Thank you. All right, so we've got 3 more positions, though, to fill. So what we'll do here, let's see if we can maybe wrap this up in a single motion on all 3 of these. So let's see if we can find some consensus. As far as the agricultural worker representative, I'm going to jump in on this conversation.
Could they put the slide back?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. So we have 2 applicants there. I'm usually inclined to have somebody that lives in our county serve, but I also work with Mr. Hernandez on Calvans. He's our local district coordinator, and as he mentioned, with his extensive involvement, and I think he would be a really important person to have on there and have his voice and understanding of that Calvans program and how it fits with what we do in this county. And just so for the rest of you that know about him, he really operates from Napomo to Oxnard. So he's the one that manages all our vans, does all the training for all of the farm workers. He's an essential part of ag transportation on the Central Coast, and it'd actually be an honor to have him. I have met Miss Ryan over the years and think highly of her as well, but getting Mr. Hernandez on here would be really a coup for us. And so I'm going to make a recommendation for him. I'd love to hear from anybody else on that one.
Well,
I'll second that recommendation.
All right.
And on our logic, he showed up.
Yeah.
So that makes a big difference too. So you already have a second. So.
Okay, so it looks like I'm getting some nodding and some thumbs up here. So let's defer that one to maybe a combined motion for all 3. Transit users South Coast, I would defer to some of our South Coast directors on preferences here. Are there anybody that stood out for any of you?
I do. Sarah from Direct Relief.
Okay, so that's Sarah Rossi from Direct Relief. Is that, anybody else want to put up another name?
I'll second that.
Okay, so I'm getting some confirmation, nodding heads, and some consensus on Sarah. With that, we'll go ahead and move to our 3rd one. Again, we'll try to wrap this up in a single motion once we get through all 3.
And door number 3. Yeah.
Santa Maria, do you guys have some thoughts on that you want to share?
No, we're all good. We think it's moving smooth.
Good. All right, now South Coast Local Service, Social Services Provider for Seniors. This is a South Coast position. I do see a Santa Maria person there, so can you maybe clarify that?
That's where her residence is. However, she works and serves South County.
Okay, I think that's helpful for us to know. Any preferences? Anybody that reviewed these applications and had a preference?
I would nominate Westland.
Catherine Westland.
And I would second that.
Okay, so I'm seeing consensus, at least up here in Santa Barbara, on that. Any concerns in Santa Maria before I move forward with a single motion?
No, sir.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to nominate Arthur Tomas Hernandez, the agricultural worker representative, Sarah Rossi for the transit user South Coast, and Catherine Westland for the local social service provider for seniors on the South Coast. Can I get that motion?
So moved.
So moved from Director Clark and
Second.
A second from Director Perotti. Any further discussion on that motion? All right, let's go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Director Silva?
Aye.
Director Perotti?
Aye.
Director Patino absent. Director Mosby?
Aye.
Director Lee?
Aye.
Director Lavanino?
Aye.
Director Julian?
Aye.
Director Hartman?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Capps absent. Director Brown?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nelson?
Aye.
And Chair Rouse.
Aye.
All right, that concludes 5C. Let's go ahead and move on to 5D. Madam Clerk, will you please read that item into the record?
Election of officers for 2026. Recommended action, elect board chair and vice chair for 2026.
This is your annual time to elect your officers. This is our last meeting of the year, so we put it on this agenda. The only restriction in your bylaws is that if you nominate a person for chair that's part of the member of the county, that your vice chair would have to be city and vice versa. So I just want to lay that out. We've also included in your agenda packet a list of prior members of the chair and vice chair, so you can see that for consistency. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the chair.
All right, thank you, Director Kern. Just so clarify for everybody, the way that this works is that the chair becomes the new immediate past chair, and
That's up to the
up to the
board.
board.
So, yeah.
But traditionally,
Traditionally, that's
and vice chair, if the board sees fit to move that to chair, and then that's kind of our executive committee. What are the responsibilities of those jobs?
The responsibilities are to manage the meetings as you are doing today and attending the legislative trip to DC. We asked the chair, vice chair, and former past chair to attend our trips, which will be approved at your January meeting when we appoint all the committees as well. So, and then you also meet with me. You have to meet with me once a month to go over the agendas before they're published to make sure that you concur with what we're proposing.
Okay. So I know in my script I have, let's do the vice chair and then the chair, but let's confirm the chair, I guess, first, if that's acceptable. That way we'll know whether that needs to be a city member or a county member. So traditionally it would be myself that would be that position, but I'm open to nominations or a motion on that. Director Hartman.
So I would like to nominate Director Nelson, and I think it's important, we've done this with a sense of fair play, and even though it's not cast in concrete, I think respecting those protocols makes it a more congenial, a better process. So I think you'll be great, but I also am pleased to nominate you because you have been vice chair and you did a great job today.
All right. Thank you, Director Hartman. Is there a second on that?
I second that.
Okay, I got a second from Director Brown. Is there any further discussion on the nomination for chair? Nobody's throwing rocks from Santa Maria? Okay, with that, let's go ahead and go ahead and get a motion on that, or a roll call vote on that.
For the record, if I can just call for public comment.
Yes, thank you, Ms.
If
Campos.
there are any attendees on the line who wish to speak, would you please use the raise hand feature and I will call upon you. I do not have any paper request to speak forms, and there are no attendees on the line who wish to speak. For roll call vote, Director Silva?
Aye.
Director Perotti?
Aye.
Director Patino absent. Director Mosby?
Aye.
Director Lee?
Aye.
Director Lavanino?
Aye.
Director Julian?
Aye.
Director Hartman? Director Clark? Director Capps absent. Director Brown?
Aye.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nelson?
Aye.
And Chair Rouse?
Aye. Sorry.
Motion passes.
There's one other responsibility that I forgot to mention, is you are also a member of the executive committee, which meets at least once a year to review the budget prior to it being proposed to the board and to do my evaluation.
Okay, so the warning's out there on all the extra responsibility that's unpaid. So with that, the next item is the vice chair position. And we can go ahead and I think the process would be to ask if there's any directors that are interested in that appointment.
May As I look at the list, there's two cities that aren't even on the list. They haven't had an opportunity to serve. And I think, again, from my perspective, I think it's important to allow, maybe people's schedules don't allow it, but at least to give the opportunity. So I think the city of Guadalupe and the city of Carpinteria are not on our list. They must have served prior to that. So I think in the interest of fair play, to see if either of them would like to be the vice chair.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Hartman. And I guess that's where, especially since I know that there's some other interest out there besides those two, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if they're interested and then also ask anybody else if they're interested. So then we kind of have a slate and then hopefully somebody can make a nomination from there. Director Clark, is that something you're potentially interested in? Sure. Okay, so Director Clark's potentially interested. Director Julian, are you potentially interested as well?
Yeah. I'll yield to Carpinteria.
All right. So I'm hearing some support for Carpinteria. Are there other directors that might be interested in serving as vice chair? I understand fair play here, but I know that there's others that are interested in that position. And
As someone with everything going on with the River Trail taking place and with the 101 and the 246, I've been really enjoying my time on SBCAG. So I'd also like to throw my name into the hat for consideration as well as vice chair.
All right. Thank you, Director Silva. Any other directors that might be interested as well on that position? So right now I'm seeing two directors that are interested in potentially being the vice chair for next year. So I would, at this point, open it up for a motion or or at least I guess a nomination, which we would at that point would take as a motion.
So, Chair Nelson, for me, I would nominate Director Silva because Mayor Rouse was the South Coast representative, and I feel like it's important that we give it to the Central North County representative this round. Sorry, Al, but I think it's fair.
All right. Well, that's another great perspective. Both I think are right in this process. Is there maybe a second for that motion by Director Lee?
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this? Okay. Before I guess I will add in there that I plan on supporting, even though I'm chair, I'm going to be supporting Director Silva. Thank you, Director Clark, for showing your interest, and you've served this committee well. But I do also understand on the north-south issue that Director Lee is brought up as well and would be supporting this motion. So could we get a roll call on this motion?
Director Silva?
Aye.
Director Perotti?
Aye.
Director Patino absent. Director Mosby?
Aye.
Director Lee?
Aye.
Director Lavanino?
Aye.
Director Julian?
Aye.
Director Hartman?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Capps absent. Director Brown?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nelson?
Aye.
And Chair Rouse?
Aye.
All right.
Motion passes.
Peaceful transition of power. All right. Congratulations. All right. So thank you guys all for making that a somewhat smooth process. And thank you those that are interested, and thank you for the various comments about ways that we might be able to borrow on leadership again in the future. And we're looking forward to having further representation. Just to throw out there, as we do committee assignments, if either of those cities are looking to get more involved, we could use some help at CalCog. I wouldn't mind sharing that responsibility with another director if they want it. And that's another great opportunity to serve our region on a higher level. So I think we're moving on to item 6, Executive Director's Report. Ms. Kern.
Yes. Mr. Chairperson, members of the board. This past Monday, the Lausanne Rail Corridor Agency Board of Directors unanimously approved a recommendation from its executive committee to prioritize expanding the Amtrak Pacific Surfliner service, including adding a 6th round trip to Goleta and a 3rd round trip to San Luis Obispo, and no longer pursuing the Metrolink temporary service that we were working on for the past 2 years. While this is a change, this proposal also continues to support our shared goal of expanding rail into the Central Coast. So I'm hopeful that this could happen quickly. We've been waiting for this service for many, many years, and we're still striving to implement this service, and it could happen as early as this spring if we can get the agreements in place. The proposed pilot program would provide peak hour service for our daily commuters, and it would also include 365 days of service. So we'd also have the service on the weekends, which we don't have, or we weren't proposing to have with Metrolink. And so it would provide a service for those traveling north to San Luis Obispo, as well as traveling south from San Luis Obispo all the way to San Diego. So it would add another option for our travelers. It would also be expanded service in time for the World Cup in LA, which is happening in 2026. And hopefully will continue on when we talk about the Olympics in 2028. This service furthers our state goals of reducing trips on our highways and reducing our greenhouse gases, and also our lane in the train promise that the Measure A voters approved back in 2008. So while we're finalizing the proposal and confirming the support of our stakeholders, including the state, if we are successful, I hope to bring an update to the South Coast Subregional and the full board in January, and we'll go from there to give the full proposal to the board at that time. So with that, I'll answer any questions or turn it back over to the chair.
Any questions for Director Kern? Director Hartman.
So this is a change, but it sounds like a better change. What's your assessment?
There are some questions that I included in my Friday update to you last week. So we do have some concerns about the on-time performance and making sure that we're paying for the service that it's included, that the Measure A voters approved in 2008 from Ventura to Goleta, and not paying for the service outside of our county. So we're working through that right now. But the 365 days is really attractive to me, as well as if we can have a somewhat of a layover or like a boarding process in Moore Park to have a little buffer in the timing of the service, so we'll allow for later trains to catch up in time and operate on time. But there were some other questions that we had in that letter, but I'm confident that we can work through them. The fact that Metrolink has the equipment and we can contribute our Measure A dollars to help support the service in the meantime, and the hope that this service would continue to be provided through the state's annual allocation of budgets moving forward is really an attractive option at this point in time. So, and not only that, it also reduces our risks for insurance. It would be under the umbrella of the Amtrak insurance, whereas before we were having a difficult conversation about how we would deal with catastrophic events if they occurred. So there's a lot of attractive options. I'm really hopeful that we can get this through. And the best thing about this whole process is it doesn't require another agreement with UP. So we can do it within the existing agreements that LoSan has. And so that is my shining hope that we can make this happen. So thank you. Thank you for asking.
All right, any questions in Santa Maria for Director Kern? Not seeing any. Thank you. All right, now we'll go ahead and move to the Caltrans Director's Report. Thank you, Mr. Eads, for gracing us with your presence.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the board. It's a pleasure to be here today with you. I have a storm update, a freight update, and a grant notice that I'll share with you this morning. So first, on the storm front, I think that we're all, appreciating the rain, but also recognizing there were some impacts that occurred. So on the state highway system, we did have some closures on 192 with the storms over the weekend. We initiated an emergency project. There were some trees that came down. It undermined the shoulder in a couple of places, and so we have a contractor out there to reestablish the full shoulder in those areas, make sure it doesn't continue to erode. We also had on Mission Street at the interchange some inundation with drainage systems not completely functioning as they should. We ended up with mud and debris on the roadway, which we've cleaned up, and we're going to be addressing some of those drainage systems. So these early storms are an indication of work that needs to be done on some of our storm drain systems sometimes. So in any case, we are, those are temporary issues that we should be fine moving forward. On the freight front, I just wanted to highlight something. It's just a good reminder for all of us. The Central Coast Sustainable Freight Study was completed back in August of 2024. It continues to be a very relevant document for us. This was put forward and completed by the Association of Bay Area Governments, or AMBAG. They're one of our partner agencies on the Central Coast. They're our MPO in the northern end of the Central Coast. Of course, SBCAG staff were involved in this effort because through the Central Coast Coalition and the fact that we're all working together on the freight front in the Central Coast. It's an important study for us. It provided some good data to help us understand, where the freight flow is occurring, what kind of dollar amounts are we supporting with our freight systems. And it also highlights something we all know, and that's that we're all very dependent on 101, and that we also carry a lot of freight on 166 and also 4060. So these are important corridors, and it helps just to provide additional information on that'll feed into the sustainable community strategies and other planning efforts. So just something to keep in front of us. We have District 5 is continuing to coordinate on the freight front as well. We hosted a couple of public workshops recently just to hear more from the public and make sure that our planning efforts are relevant, and we're continuing to look, what are our freight needs and making sure we're protecting those moving forward. Also, last thing I wanted to highlight was the Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant. I know you've heard about this for a while. There have been reminders at the North and South Coast subregionals. The application deadline is tomorrow. So, this is probably not a time to start, but a time to finish. And I think the applications that are going to be showing up, if they haven't already been submitted, are well on their way. As just a reminder, there's nearly $35 million that are available this cycle. It's a Caltrans program. We fund a lot of great stuff, and I know SBCAG has been a recipient of a lot of funds, as well as local jurisdictions in the SBCAG region. So we're looking forward to seeing the applications. The way it works is District 5 staff will take a first cut at those, and then those are sent on to headquarters, and ultimately headquarters makes a decision on what gets funded. And the awards will be announced in June 2026. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Eads? Director Hartman.
I think this may be more for Director Kern, but at our North County Subregional, we talked about freight and about getting perhaps a more in-depth presentation and understanding based on the study. So I just raised that again, and Director Kern, maybe you can give us some direction about how that might occur.
Sure, we can bring the freight presentation to the subregional, and you can discuss it there, and then we can see if there's other needs that need to be addressed in the corridors that we're looking at in North County. Okay.
Okay, I guess then the question is this just it is certainly a North County issue, but is it a South County issue as well? I mean, I think on the 154 and the 101, it possibly is. I mean, basically, from my perspective, want people on 101, not the 154. We get a lot of agricultural freight coming.
Yeah, we can bring it to the full board. It doesn't
so
matter.
I guess the question is there broader interest?
Okay, got it.
I think you're seeing some nodding heads here, so we can definitely add that to the future agenda. All right, any questions for Caltrans in Santa Maria?
I have one.
Yes, Director Mosby, please.
At first, I want to just comment and thank Caltrans for fixing that long-awaited project on Highway 1. It's nice to have the speed bump gone out of the highway, and I know the public's very happy with that. I know it was a multi-phase project. I had to wait through nesting bird season, but thank you guys for that one. A lot of people are happy. But I also wanted to comment on the recent jackknifing of a truck on Highway 246, and it was about an 8-hour delay or deferred, and traffic during the commute coming back was an hour or better to come into town. And the diversion around the roundabout, again, just pointing out the simple fact how vulnerable the community of Lompoc is should a road get cut down or redirected. I know a lot of people.
How vulnerable we are.
There we go.
You were saying?
I pissed them off.
That's right. There you go. Lights, there you go. Okay, gotta have general services.
Up here in
pay
the
the bill.
colonies, we'll see if we can get it going. Get the squirrels fired up again, guys.
All right. Thank you, Director Mosby.
We can still hear you, so go, continue on.
You still hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
It's just commenting how vulnerable we were. How about that? So if it could be looked into, I don't know why, exactly it took 8 hours to clear the semi-truck on there and such, or approximately. Thank you guys for getting it cleared out, but again, just how vulnerable that corridor is.
Thank you, Director Mosby. Any other further comments for Director Eads? All right. I'm not seeing any. Then we'll go ahead and move on to committee meetings. First one up is LoSAN. Director Perotti.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Director Kern, for giving your update on LoSAN. And I sit on the LoSAN board, and on behalf of this board, continue to advocate and support commuter rail. And I do believe that we will be having, in our January meeting, someone from LoSAN will be coming to give us all a real good briefing on the idea of what we're up against, and moving forward, how we can make this happen sooner than later. And at the last board meeting, there were quite a few board members that had concerns, but have more questions. So I'll keep you posted as we go, and hopefully in January we'll have someone here. End of report.
All right. Thank you, Director Perotti. And that's on to myself for a couple of other committee assignments. CalCog, good report back that we had just had our annual in-person meeting in Palm Desert just a couple weeks ago, where we had some presentations on AI. The CalCog meeting is an opportunity for us all to share strategies, share what we're doing in our region, as well as advocating on the state level. So we talked about various priorities in the next year's session as we deal with some of the pending legislation that impacts our municipal planning areas. Housing is obviously a big concern for many of the MPOs, and so we're working through that. Again, I mentioned before in my other one that I'm looking for some help on that. I've got quite a few committee assignments here at SBCAG and at the county next year, and if there's, when we do committee assignments in January, I might be willing to step back and push somebody forward on that. So it's a good opportunity to learn about what's going on at the state level and have a voice in some of the conversations on some of the bigger legislation that ends up impacting our communities. Looking for definitely some regulatory relief on some of these planning grants that we have to go through and processes. They were just talking about in the LA area alone that just some of the last cycle, over $100 million had been spent on just the planning and studies involved and complying with the state, that we don't get a lot of bang for that buck. And so really trying to streamline those things and be a lot more effective and efficient with those dollars. So some really great conversations to be a part of. They also offer a leadership academy that's really neat, as well as a summer school program where they kind of get into the meat of a lot of these acronyms that we all talk about here. And so if you guys want to become a future bureaucrat yourself and learn all those things, there's opportunities within CalCog to do that. And you don't have to be the CalCog representative or alternate to do that. Those are things that are available to anybody. And maybe we can get those out in Margie's Friday report so that some of you guys might be able to take advantage of that. So that's CalCog. As far as CalVans is concerned, we also had our in-person meeting this last month for this year. CalVans continues to be our region is one of the most active regions in the state for CalVans. As Thomas mentioned to you earlier, well over 100 vans in our region are being used in CalVans. CalVans is currently dealing with an aging fleet of vans. We've been patching holes with grants for over the years, and now we're needing to really do a comprehensive look on our infrastructure and what we're going to be in the future, as well as having to comply with state standards on electrification, which we've been able to purchase some electrical vans, but they do seem not to work for the needs of what CalVans does. And so we're really trying to bridge that gap in making sure that we comply with state law on clean fleets, and as well as making sure that we're part of the Clean Fleet solution. So it's kind of a push and pull. So we're spending a lot of time on advocacy with the legislature on trying to, and within the executive branch, to try to get some regulatory relief so that we can expand our fleet with some of the more traditional gasoline-powered vehicles and hybrid vehicles instead of having to go electric. It's one of those times when a regulation has good intentions, but also has negative impacts on our goals. So again, that's kind of where we're spending a lot of our time. Also, CalVan has had a rather steady, we haven't pushed on price increases to our users in quite some time. So this last year, we've done that, and we're going to need to do that over the next couple of years to keep CalVans as a viable option. Despite increasing costs per mile, we are still much more affordable than other private providers, as well as providing a safety record that is second to none and additional services for our users. And again, I know Supervisor Hartman, or sorry, Director Hartman mentioned CalVans opportunities. For us, it's about acquiring new vans and having that supply so that we can actually maximize the business model that we have. And we have a board that's continuing to work on that. So that's an update on CalVans. And with that, let's go ahead and move to 1-minute reports. Do any directors want to give a 1-minute report? Director Brown from Solving.
Yeah, as I'm often asked, what are the duties of mayor? And I said, well, 50% is governance, the other 90% is cheerleader. So coming up with Solvang is the Yule Fest, which starts on the tree lighting Friday the 5th, I think it is, and then a parade on Saturday, and party all the way through to our tree burn that we have. If you've never been to the tree burn, it's great party, but bring your own marshmallows and hot dogs for that. But it's going to be fun, and I wanted to thank you, staff, a very happy Thanksgiving. I'm very grateful for all you do.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Director Brown. Director Silva.
Oh, just wanted to take a moment to honor and thank everyone here for your support in voting me into the vice chair position. I just look forward to working with all of you, and I've enjoyed our time together. So thank you very much.
Thank you for those gracious comments, Director Silva. Director Prodi.
Well, since you're bragging and cheerleading, I'll have to do that too. Our holiday parade will be on December the 6th, and we're all looking forward to get more and more entries every year. Also, our train depot is rolling along. If you haven't gone by there, you should check it out. And we still are pretty much on track. We've had a little break time right now, but I think they're working inside the building. So I think we're still on track for June of 26 opening.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any 1-minute reports in Santa Maria? Not seeing any. You good there, Chair Rouse? Okay. All right. So I think that at this point, that concludes our meeting. The next meeting will be January 15th, 2026 here in Santa Barbara. Thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.